This is Dimitri from Mythic Outpost, and this is my first deck tech video. I'd like to share with you the deck list I've been using since Amonkhet came out. The deck is called New Perspectives, and it's a combo deck. So let's get straight into it. The deck plays around the card New Perspectives. It's an enchantment costing 6 mana. When it comes into play, you draw 3 cards, and then if you have 7 or more cards in your hand, you can pay 0 for your cycling costs. So the way this deck wins is you want to play New Perspectives on turn 5 or 6, and then you use your creatures, the 2 types of creatures we have, Vizier of the Tumbling Sands and Shepherd Monitor. Whenever you have New Perspectives out and you cycle one of these, it generates you 1 mana. Shepherd Monitor, when you cycle him, obviously you draw cards, and then you can search your library for a basic land or desert, and you put that land in untapped if it's a basic land. So as long as you've got basic lands in your deck, when you cycle Shepherd Monitor, you gain 1 mana. Vizier of the Tumbling Sands, when you cycle him, you also get to untap a target permanent. So you can untap 1 land and generate 1 mana that way. Now, if you have a land that is enchanted with Gift of Paradise, when you cycle Vizier and untap that land, you generate 2 mana. So the aim is to cycle your creatures, cycle all your other spells until you find the Shadow of the Grave and cast that. So when you cast Shadow of the Grave, you return to your hand all cards in your graveyard that you cycled or discarded this turn. So they all come back to your hand. You cycle them again, generate some more mana. Dig a bit deeper in the deck for another Shadow of the Grave, repeat that and you keep doing that until you generate 14 mana, so you can play Approach of the Second Sun twice on the same turn that you played New Perspective. So basically you can win turn 5 or 6 that fast, with no disruption. So let's have a look at the cards in the deck. Obviously there's some cards that I don't think you can take out. They're not negotiable. New Perspectives, 4 copies. 4 copies Vizier of the Tumbling Sands, 4 copies of Shepherd Monitor, and 4 copies of Shadow of the Grave. That's kind of your engine. Everything else is there to support it, or it's a win condition. And because of the nature of the deck, we focus a lot on cycling cards. That means it's probably not getting a lot of things from Ixalan, but that's for another video. So we're playing 4 Gift of Paradise. The original deck was playing 3 Weirding Woods, which would generate an additional card, which is important so you have 7 in hand. But because of the format, the meta game now with all these aggressive decks, Run Up Reds, Temur Energy, Zombies, Vehicles, Gift of Paradise increases our mana, and it also gains us 3 life. So I value the 3 at this point. I value the 3 life more than drawing an additional card. Our creatures are just the 2 Shepherd Monitor and Vizier of Tumbling Suns, 4 of each, 4 Shadow of the Grave. Then we're playing 4 Haze of Pollen, which is a fog effect with 1 in green, and it's also got cycling. Card 59 and 60 is Descendant's Deliverance. It cycles for 1 green, which is our main color. And it can be useful in control decks against Torrential Gearhulks and Vehicles. But mostly it's in there because it cycles for 1 green. Then I've added also Fateful Showdown, which you can either use. It's got many uses actually. You can use it as a second win con in combination with Struggle Survive. Having 30 cards in your hands is not a problem with this deck once you go off. But in order to kill your opponent and survive, you also have to have those cards in your deck. So if I had 30 cards with Fateful Showdown, I discard 29 cards and I have to draw 29 cards. My opponent takes 29 damage. So what you can do is cast the Fateful Showdown for 10. Play, survive, shuffle your graveyard back into your library, and then attempt to do it again for another 10 or 12. So I use it as a second win con in case Approach of the Second Sun gets discarded or countered somehow. But it also has other uses. Early on in the game, it's a 4 mana removal spell. Um, and also, if you reach turn 5 or 6 and you don't have any Perspectives in your hands, you could cast this, kill a creature, and draw into a fresh hand -1. Also, against blue-white Approach of the Second Sun, I've had players tap out to play Gideon and cast an emblem, thinking that's good enough, because the original deck just played Approach of the Second Sun. So then I cycle a bit, and then I Fateful Showdown my opponents, redirecting it to Gideon, and then I win with Approach of the Second Sun. So it's a very useful card, but you need to play it with Struggle Survive. These two kind of went together into the deck. So those are the instants. Let's go to Struggle is also instant, but in the graveyard it counts as instant sorcery. That's what I've got in this column. And that's because Delirium matters for us, because we're playing 3 copies of Traverse. Early on in the game, we're happy to play the Traverse just to bring a basic land. You want to bring a basic land untapped on turn 3 or 4, depending if you have a Gift of Paradise or Shepherd Monitor. And later on in the game, when you've cycled and you have Delirium, you cast Traverse, and that brings you a Vizier, so that generates you additional mana. So we're playing 3 Traverse. We're playing a Beneath the Sands. I used to play as a 5th Gift of Paradise. I used to play a Weirding Wood, but the deck would fizzle very rarely. But I'm trying to reduce that as much as I can. You want, when you play New Perspectives, to win. So Beneath the Sands is like the 5th 3-mana accelerator, and it also has cycling. The disadvantage of it is obviously it's not enchant land, so it doesn't. When I'm cycling Viziers, I want to find a Gift of Paradise, so I untap that land to generate 2 and not just 1 mana. So we're playing 3 Traverse, Beneath the Sands, 4 copies of Sweltering Sun. There's not much I can, it's great against aggro, and then it's also got cycling, so it's never dead cards. And 4 copies mean that maybe there's been situations where you play 2 of them on the same turn to kill big things. And then, as I said, Struggle Survive. It's a removal spell for 3, it does 3 damage, and later on it can take Torrential Gearhulks out, it can take Scarab Gods, and most importantly, the second half in the graveyard, Survive. It allows us to shuffle our graveyard back into our deck. So those are the sorceries. Then going to the lands, we're playing 13 lands that come into play tapped, and all of them have cycling. Our main color is green, so we're playing almost as much as green cycling cards we can. So we're playing 4 Shattered Groves, 4 Sheltered Thickets, and we're also playing 3 copies of Desert of the Indomitable, which generates green, it has cycling, and you can also bring it with Shepherd Monitor. So that's why this is a new addition to the deck also. And then our secondary color is red because of Sweltering Suns. So we're playing Canyon Slout, 2 Canyon Slouts, and then we go to our basic untapped lands: 2 Aether Hubs, 4 Forests, 2 Mountains, 1 Island, 1 Swamp. And that's the deck. I'll do another video for sideboarding options, and there'll be some videos showing how the deck plays actually online. Thanks for watching.